Well, it's great to be here, and lovely to be joined by Kim Adele again, and James Owen Roberts, who is a Paralympic athlete, and yeah, he's going to share some of his amazing motivational stuff with us, hopefully, and yeah, it should be quite interesting because I've interviewed James before, and he's got masses of value to add. So you're a transformational coach now, I believe, James, as well.
Yep, that's correct, Nate.
Super. So would you like to sort of tell people a little bit about your story, like what sort of happened and how you kind of moved beyond the pain to manage your mindset, really, I would call it.
Well, a lot of people don't know, well, on this show in particular, won't know that I'm born with a disability because you can't see it because it's underneath the table. So for me, I know everybody will call it adverse or adversity. I don't, because I was born with a disability. I don't know any different. So I've been probably fortunate. I won't say it was luck, but put in a position where my family were very strong-minded anyway. You could put that in a different term of it. It's very stubborn. So it was a case of, well, James is in this position. It's only later on, probably in the last year or so, that I've probed it a bit more and asked, well, how was it like for you? Because I pretty much hit the ground running because of the positivity of, well, we know he's got a disability, but we're not going to hold that back. And every opportunity that was put in my way, we'll go for it. So I probed probably because of lockdown to kind of say, well, what was it like for my mum in particular, my grandmother? And my mum said it was pretty hard for her because not knowing people to ask, or obviously there's the stereotypes of, we're talking 35 years ago, of people probably look down on you in certain ways. Of a warning stream of, my mum was said, well, what did you do to him? I don't know how I would have responded back then, but I was horrified. And then something that I asked my mum about for my grandmother, and she never portrayed this ever in all the years that I knew her. She was very morbid of, well, what's James going to do? How is he going to survive? Is he going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life? She never portrayed that to me. So I shared that with a Facebook Live in the last year, and it brought people to tears. It's like, I've only found about this about 5 minutes ago. So for me, it's like it's no big deal because I didn't know anything. It's not had any effect on me negatively. It possibly would have done, because ultimately that's very negative to think, but it shows that kind of generation that she was in. It's stiff upper lip and we won't tell anything to anybody. And pretty much that's probably where I get my stubbornness from. So people say no to me, I say, why? How come? I will ask a question because you'll give me a problem. I'll give you a solution. And if you don't like it, or the answer I give, which is sometimes problematic for them more than me, and I've looked to get better at that so I can be able to communicate in a way that the person receive it and not take anything malice from what I've said. It's not me having a go at you. It just may be the truth. Sometimes, obviously, everybody knows the truth hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, for your grandma, it must have been out of love that she made sure that she only ever shared with you the positives, even though inside she might have been fearful that, you know, life might not be as easy. Because I think when we have our children, you just want life to be easy for them, don't you? You want to be able to take away any pain, any hurt, any obstacles. I mean, I'm definitely an over the top biased mother that would love to wrap my little girl in bubble wrap and cotton wool and then a protective suit, but I realize you can't do that, and you've got to give them the opportunity to become who they're supposed to become, and we learn sometimes through hardship, don't we? But it's hard to watched that. So for her to have had all of that, but made sure that she only ever shared with you the positives, must have been her way of trying to really help you build your resilience, do you think?
That's a great question. I never looked at it from that perspective. Possibly. I can't ask her that now because she's been gone 20 years, but probably because my family was willing to go well beyond comfort levels for some people. It's thanks to my mother that I had my sporting career, because she was willing to go, well, at the time it made me very uncomfortable, but willing to go to great lengths to be able to put me in a position to be successful in sport. So she went when I was a spectator at the Manchester 2002 Commonwealth Games, of going down when the session had finished, go down to the bottom of the grandstand and shout over the top, "Is there anybody there from the Welsh delegation?" I was mortified, and that's being generous. But she said after that, when I asked about it, she didn't want to go back and face my grandmother, having not done, all that she could to put me in a position to be successful. I had to do the work after that, but I remember fondly of that, because it probably stems from 2 generations of my family to put me on that path to greatness. And then obviously it's up to me to then put 100% effort into what I do. So I disagree with a lot of people when they kind of dip their toe in. It's like, well, you're either going to be 100% in or you're 100% out. I'll respect you for the 100% out, because it's owning up to, I've got a problem, but I'm okay with it, or you 100% want to change. But I think probably because as a society of, I'll call it Amazon approach, of click now and pretty much have it tomorrow. Every aspect of people's lives now are pretty like that. It's like, well, I want instant success, and it doesn't work like that. My athletic career is 10 years in that environment, but it's probably, I don't know, 5-6 years of cultivation before that to make that a reality. And I've actually had to show up every single day, because you don't think about it, but in probably on this subconscious level, you could be dropped at any minute.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that and it was a big sporting coach that he said it's not around going until you get it right, it's about going until you can't get it wrong, and that kind of almost never happens. So you have to keep going back, you have to keep showing up. Every time you make a tiny mistake, you've got to go back and try and rectify it. And I guess it's that dogged determination, isn't it, of going, even on the days I don't want to show up, I'm going to show up. So because actually I need to. That's going to be how I progress.
Well, I think on reflection, that's an advantage that an athlete's got, because they're able to analyze things daily. Doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or indifferent, and you can go obviously learn from that. But if you look at business or wider society, if you say business, it might be every quarter, every 6 months, every 9 months, maybe every year. Every year, look at and you analyze what is particularly going wrong in most cases. But whereas society's placed, you might look at it New Year's and maybe your birthday, and that's about it. So the people, generally speaking, some people might analyze it a bit more than that, aren't able to look at it in depth, because they haven't got as many touch points to look on. Whereas I glossed over it a lot at the time, because it was a process that, well, I have to do it, as you say, Kim Adele, of it doesn't matter if I like it or I loathe it, I still have to do it. But I think on reflection, now that I've retired, we were able to do that daily, and probably in some sports you're training 2 to 3 times a day as well. Yeah. And then being able to analyze a little bit more, and then you have a massive support network around you of coaches and your peers to be able to say, or am I doing this right? Could I do it slightly differently? Whereas from personal experience in business, I like to do things sometimes. I don't do it as much now, but in the early days of I know best, I didn't have a support network in sport, so thus I must do it all by myself. And then when the shit hits the fan, I've only got myself to blame. So I've looked to have other people around me to mentor, to guide, and then obviously say, well, James, maybe your attention is better placed somewhere else, or you need to focus primarily on this, or you need to, if you're going to invest, for argument's sake, in writing or co-authoring a book, what is going to suffer as a result? Are you willing to do that? Which obviously I've gone away and done, and I actually enjoyed the process of going back through my own life of contributing to the book, and then it's helped me to actually pull my finger out, because loads of people said, well, when are you going to write your own book? So that is a manuscript on my computer at the moment, so I just need to put it a little bit more structured to it. But it served a purpose for somebody to say to me, well, you've got two choices. You can either go right and concentrate on that, but something else within your business is going to suffer at the same time. Are you willing to do that? Obviously, it took probably, we're talking about at least a month before I made a decision, because I was sitting on the fence with it. It's like, well, I want to do this, but I don't also want to compromise other aspects of the business. But eventually I've kind of said, well, I might as well. It's only a draft, and they can still say, well, you need to sharpen it a bit more. It's not as potent or as powerful as it could be, which is fine. I've done it, and I've done it 2 weeks in advance, so I'll take that as a positive.
So it's quite a cathartic experience writing a book. I mean, interestingly enough, we're all in the same place with our books. Kim is further ahead than you and me, like by quite a long way, I think. My book's a bit short, so I probably need to write another 8,000, right? But it's a cathartic process, right, of like going through that and going back over your life and saying, well, at this point, that was like a massive turning point. And like, yes, it was hard, and it was really tough at the time, but like something inside you just made you just carry on, and you did it, right? So can you think of any particular time when that was like really bad, James, when you like maybe you fell out of your chair like 50 times in a day, or like, is there any particular day which you think back on that would just killed you really in your mind, or what?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it comes back to my earlier point I said to you before we went live of, you know, you can't please everybody, and obviously you're gonna have people that are very loyal to you, and the people that detest you. And obviously to come back to your question that you asked me, it's probably more recently, probably in the last 5 years, that's been quite a sombering point of, and that's why mental health, be it in the UK, I think it's like a week, and in the US it's a month. I still don't think it's long enough, but because I've suffered with mental health probably multiple times, but in terms of it being pretty much, it smacked me in the face because I wasn't listening, because everything else, my body was giving me signs of being like turmoil. I was ignoring. I was like, well, I'm stressed. Okay, no big deal. I'm not sleeping very well. Oh, no big deal. I can still cope. And it was one day at work, when I was working in secondary education as a TA, I had a massive panic attack. I thought I was having a heart attack. So I didn't know what was happening. And the stories I was told after the fact when I went back to work were horrific. It's like, oh, your eyes roll back in your head. It's like, well, I don't remember.
Whoa.
So it was pretty, and I was still on edge after when I went back, but I'd was seeked help to see occupational health therapy with my surgery, and our headmaster asked, oh, do you want to go see somebody for the council as well? I was like, yeah, okay, because you're offering, I'll take it. And it was to give me more support, because if somebody said to me, well, we want you to do this, I could turn around and say, well, remember this issue, this kind of goes against that. It was kind of my scapegoat to kind of say, well, I can't do it, and this is the reason why, and people would kind of back off. But that day was like really bad, because I think colleagues said, oh, your head like bounced off the table. I don't remember like that. I remember my head going towards the table, and I was like, but I felt my head was pounding, temperature, like I was really, really sweating. I couldn't control my temperature. Like 1 minute it would be really, really hot, and the next minute I had the chills, and I threw up. And I think before that they said, oh, do you want an ambulance? I was like, yeah, yes, please, because I don't know what's going on with me. I don't feel like, I've never felt like this in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But it must, for now on reflection, it was a really, really bad panic attack, and pretty much my body kind of said, well, we're gonna hit stop now, because you're not listening to all the warning signs. So we'll make.
I've got a good question. So is that a part of your life that you really were not enjoying, because you weren't actually enjoying your career, and that perhaps maybe contributed to that stress, and then that's why it happened, do you think?
I think it was the final straw, if I'm honest, because it was like being pushed off a cliff. I blamed the job at the time for, probably like a good year after. It's like, oh, I only had a panic attack and was very, very anxious and stressed because of the job. It's like, well, that's not true. I chose to, and people would be surprised to hear this from me now, when I work heavily in health now, my diet was in the toilet. I wasn't exercising. I couldn't be asked by the time it came 3:30 to go anywhere near a gym or any form of exercise, because I was physically and mentally drained. It's like, I can't be asked. It's the last thing. I was exercising a little bit, but it'd be like once a week, doing wheelchair basketball, and that was about it. And that was my solace a little bit to get over maybe have a bad day at work, and then be able to be in my happy place. And I blamed it, but it was manifestation of like years and years of sweeping things under the carpet of what I did in sport. Oh, it's no big deal, I'll deal with that when I retire. And this was probably something that was minuscule at the time, was ginormous by the time it came. What would it be, about 2018? So we're probably about 3 years ago now. But it was enormous, and it was not pleasant to deal with. But I think one of the counselors said, what do you want to do? Do you want to be able to deal with the day-to-day grind of working in a school, or do you want to go work towards the future? It's like, I want to work towards the future, because for me it was, and I've even said it on my website, it was to pay the bills, because family said, well, your business isn't working, so you need to ultimately have food in your stomach and a roof over your head. So I succumbed to a little bit, and one of the things should have been a red flag to me in the beginning was, oh, it's going to be the best time of your life. I thought to myself, well, I've already had mine. This is kind of going down the wrong way. I'm not saying it was all bad. There was some good experiences in those 2 years, but for the majority of it, unless I seek people out on social media and kind of probe people and maybe prod, I'm not going to get sworn at. I'm not going to be called any names under the sun. Whereas in that environment, well, I'll say it's deemed acceptable to a teenager to speak to an adult with complete disregard to them as a human being. Whereas I think once I regained my confidence before I left, I think it would have been a year 10, said to me, oh, sir, I don't think your sporting career was a success.
Oh,
and I did it in an instant to be able to give a response. I was like, well, I can't say something totally condescending as maybe to be an adult, because an adult might be able to take it tongue in cheek. So I just said to him, well, just come back to me when you've made a national team. I know that's highly unlikely due to where we live. And I didn't know this to the Welsh elections. It's like the constituency is the most deprived in all of Wales, and I didn't know that. So the likelihood of that pupil, well, now I'd be finished school, of making it to the elite level of sport is non-existent. So I didn't want to tear him a new one, but I did want to put him in play. It's Pierce did laugh at him, but it's like, well, you're not going to speak to me like that, because I don't talk to myself like that.
It's disgraceful. But I remember, it's very interesting, because I just met you just after you had left, I think, or you were just transitioning, and that's when we talked, and you seem so much more relaxed. You just seem like a different guy. You were quite uptight still, I think, and it probably caused you trauma. Like, I wouldn't want to work in that environment. Awful.
Well, it took some harsh words from my dad, who did do counselling as a job for nearly a decade in the end, and he kind of said, well, you need to be two people, one person outside of the school and one person inside it. But I don't think they give you all the education to do with laws and to be like compliant, but they don't prepare a lot of people for the emotional distress or the emotional thing, because I'm quite an emotional person. Some people I'm quite logical, but I get emotionally triggered depending on what it is. If we don't see eye to eye, it took somebody else is similar to me, but earlier in the journey with their business, it's like, well, that is me. I didn't pipe up and say it, but this is me. But I'm further along than you. But he was getting emotionally triggered by somebody not pulling in the same direction. And this was actually today, coach was saying, you can't take a horse, you can't take a horse to water and make it drink it. Ultimately, he was trying to hit this horse, and it's like, well, why aren't you behaving? I'm hitting you. Why aren't you going in the direction I want? And what he was kind of shown to was like, well, you're talking about mindset, but the person might be ready because they say, well, I want to change. That might be their way of their understanding of mindset and mindfulness. Mine's massively different from, as you said, Nate, the person I am tonight to the person you spoke to 2-3 years ago to the person I was when I was in sport. Because mindfulness and psychology and all these things, I would kind of say, well, you only go see a psychologist if there's something wrong. I would probably disagree now as well. You look at British cycling. They were the first professional team to look at psychology for those marginal gains, and pretty much every sport's followed suit now, and it's probably multi-million-dollar industry now of trying to get the best out of corporates, of athletes and the like. Yes, most people kind of go to changing things when it's rock bottom. I did, but that's probably because, in a way, it goes back to the early days of the stubbornness within my family. It's like, well, this has always worked for me this way. I can't do it a different way. But I was willing, when one else failed, of when I was at the bottom, I can't go any lower. So why don't we give these recommendations a shot? So I think what I was recommended to do, obviously, go back to exercise, to try yoga or Pilates.
Oh yeah, I remember you were big into that.
Yoga was a bit too far. So I was like, well, I've done Pilates as an athlete. Let's see what the gym aspect of Pilates is like. And I went religiously I think in the end for 9 months, then stopped again, and then went back. And I was talking to the instructor before the first lockdown, and it'd been like a year since I'd been, and she was a bit surprised. It's like, yeah. But with a lot of things, I think when it's better or it's fixed, it's all rosy again, and it's never is. It's always a work in progress, and I think this pandemic has proven that to me. As now, you can't just put it down because it's easy at the moment. If you haven't actually resolved what the problem was, in most cases for a lot of things I hadn't, because the first lockdown I was very distraught of losing sport, and then I think I got to be comfortable with it and was open to it. I had to get medication in the end this time because everything holistically had gone. So I kind of went, well, I've got no choice. For the safety of everybody that's living with me, I need to accept this as a reality. And then I've made massive strides in progress. And I was like, well, you don't miss sport, you miss the people. And that's all that I've missed. And we go back to training for the first time, I think 15 months tomorrow. So I don't know how that's going to be for emotions. Physically, I'm very apprehensive because I don't know what we're doing. So that it scares me from that perspective as well. There's certain rules that the club's got to follow by guidelines of going back. So sharing equipment is not allowed. So be it a team sport and a ball. So like, well, okay, we won't be playing any sort of matches or anything like that. I hope it's not all physical, because that's going to be hot. That's going to be brutal. But we've got to start somewhere, and that's probably the only thing I couldn't replicate during the last 15 months is high intensity cardio. Is pretty hard at home to replicate something for disability without being quite high impact. So I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also I'm not scared, but because I've probably encountered everything that I ever could, but I don't particularly want to be massively sick, which could be a possibility.
Yeah, I guess there is a real balance at the minute, isn't there, of people being, looking forward to the fact that we're starting to see an end, hopefully, that light at the end of the tunnel, but also a bit of an apprehension. We went into London today with work for the first time in months and months, and actually chatting to people. There was that real balance of getting excited about the fact we're allowed out, or actually we're allowed in. We're allowed to actually go and not sit in the rain. But there was also that apprehension that was like, what actually is the new norm going to be like? And am I going to be ready for it? Am I going to be able to keep the things that we've enjoyed doing in the last 15 months? Because I think it's taught us the things we appreciate perhaps a little bit more, because you've not had them. they got taken away, didn't they? So actually you suddenly realize how much you do rely on something that you might have perhaps taken a little bit more for granted before. Does that resonate?
I think with me, definitely, because I've always had health and wellness, probably since I did I can walk. So it's always been in part of my life. So it been, I won't say taken away, but put to one side, and it's not been my choice. I was probably like that kid in a pram. It's like, I'm going to throw my toys out because I can't get my way. And for me, it was difficult because I had to self-isolate at the very beginning because I'd had a new cough. So the guidelines back then was, well, you got to isolate. So I managed to persuade the person I was speaking to. I've already stayed inside for 7 days, so it's only a week. But being told you can't leave the what I'll call it a compound, but your house for 7 days, and I can hear my house backs onto an Aldi, and you can people going about their normal lives. That was, I won't say soul destroying, but it wasn't an ideal thing for me because I was kind of spiraling. If I was being able to probably contemplate and take it into perspective of having a real conversation, as I did, and a couple of months later, of my mom said, well, your normality has not changed. I was doing pretty much similar sort of things pre-COVID to what I was doing during lockdown. I was like, yeah, you got a valid point, but I didn't see it that way because I pretty much put the blinkers on, and it was every little ounce of pain I was feeling, I was internalizing a lot more. So it was like, oh, I'm only the only one that's feeling like this. So I talk of it nowadays and this is more a saying that's been told to me, look at things from a perspective of 30,000 feet, which I pretty much with everything now, of take a backwards seat and kind of look at it in the bigger picture, as opposed to probably the days of sport where you are in the trenches. But I'm still so conditioned to that I kind of get engrossed into, I need to go into the battle. I need to, I've not been too bad at recently. I've probably surprised myself because one conversation I'd had, I think all my peers said, why you got the gloves on? And I was proven right. But at the time I looked at their perspective. Okay, we'll take it from your approach. Maybe it is probably too confrontational at first. That conversation I was right. So I was right to put the gloves on. But I've taken stock of that conversation for other things in of probably more in the present of, I don't need to always come out swinging and things like that. Of, I don't have to make the sale. I don't always have to approach that person as being the next client. Just have a conversation, and ultimately, if they like you, that's a good start. If they don't, okay, that's fine. We go our separate ways. Versus trying to, what did my coach call it? Trying to get everybody onto the rostrum. It's like, I'm not trying to do that, and I don't know how that feels for myself because I didn't do it very often. But in terms of the perspective that it gives you, and come back to your question, Kim Adele, of focusing solely on what you don't have, I probably started to appreciate things that I took for granted. So walking became a steady thing of the family. So my birthday last year, the most exciting thing of it was probably having a birthday cake and going outside the house, and that was about it. And I was grateful for that because it's like, well, a few months before that you couldn't leave the house, so it's like, okay. This year was a little bit slightly different, and somebody asked me, oh, you haven't really done much on your birthday this year, and it was last week tomorrow. I was like, well, it's a massive step forward. Of in Wales this time last year we could only go 5 miles, and I went probably like 10-15 miles in both directions. So I took stock of it because I couldn't do that last year, so I've done a lot more this year. And my normality pre-COVID was, wow, I probably didn't enjoy. Well, I would say I didn't enjoy my birthday. I'd have been training or competing, and that was the norm. So probably in a career, maybe 2 birthdays that didn't happen. So in 20 odd years, so I just became accustomed of it. Of we're going to spend it with teammates. And to give some people some context, it's a long time ago now, but it's nearly 15 years ago. I forgot it was my 21st.
Wow.
I was competing on that day. It was because I was that nervous of the competition and to deliver on the day. I completely forgot it was my birthday, and it wasn't until a teammate said happy birthday. Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, it's my birthday. I completely forgotten. It's pretty much a monumental occasion for your 21st, but that shows the dedication, the passion. I would say an obsession towards the sport, because it's taken over every ounce of being towards that result. Ended up we won that day, so it worked out, and I was that stressed I couldn't eat food. So the birthday was probably way down the list of priorities.
No, but it shows kind of where, you know, what we focus on is that it allows us to overcome all kinds of things, isn't it? Things that we don't think that we would be. You know, if somebody told you that you were going to not be able to remember it was your birthday because you were so dedicated to the sport before it happened, you probably would have thought that they were crazy people. But then, having lived through it, you realize actually no, all your focus went on to the sport, to the thing that was important to you, and you can kind of, I guess, almost find that inner strength, can't you, to get through challenges, to get through things that you would otherwise not think you would be able to tackle.
Well, I probably face more adversity than a lot of people. I'm not saying my life is more adverse than anybody else, but it probably grounds me to a certain extent of, you've managed to achieve more than most in 35 years. Yeah. And it's probably more the British side of me that's too humble of, oh, it's no big deal. It just happened overnight. Of it took somebody externally to say, well, what have you achieved? And I actually wrote it down. I was actually flabbergasted. It's like a 2-page document. And I was like, okay, yeah, you have done quite a lot, but because I lived and breathed it. And coming back to the point of the book, you do forget the importance of the magnitude it's going to have on somebody else. It's like, well, it's no big deal for me, because I was willing to, I don't like the word sacrifice, but other people will call it sacrifice. It was just something I wanted to do. I was willing to pretty much bury myself every single day just to have the opportunity. So for some people that is somewhat uncomfortable to extremely barbaric, but for me it was like, okay, I got to do it. I don't know any different, so the uncertainty aspect of being able to compete at the highest level, it didn't scare me, because like, well, I don't know any different. So what's there to be scared of? Whereas I think with the last 2 years, because it's been, well, we didn't know anything about it. Whereas sport, I've got history, and I can go look and find out about what other people have done and ask people questions. Whereas with this, because it was a complete anomaly, and it was very negative in terms of, it was like I can't say the word. I call it doomsday because I can't get the word out. But in terms of it was like,
sure I can say that either.
Apocalyptic event of it being pretty much, it was from one extreme being only in Asia, oh, no big deal. When it got to Europe, it was a problem, and then when it was on our shores, it was a massive problem. So it probably comes back to that preparedness. I think my family is probably very good at it. It's very pessimistic. It looks at the worst case scenario. I think some people say is a realist. Yes, I'm optimistic. I'm not always doom and gloom, but we look at contingency plans as, okay, if plan A was to not work out, should you not have a plan B or C and D? And gurus obviously go against that of, you need to put all your eggs in one basket. It's like, well, what happens if that doesn't work and the person isn't prepared?
So what would you say to people if they're like going through challenging times right now? Like what would you say to them, James?
Honestly? Well, it's leading into that problem, isn't it? Because it's not going away, and I did it myself. It's like, oh, this problem, arm's length. Yeah, I want to keep you away. if I don't believe that you exist, you're not there. But obviously that doesn't serve anybody because it's not going anywhere. The anxiety is going to build up more and more, and ultimately you're going to be more and more fearful of it. So it's dealing as best as you can with that adversity problem as you can. Obviously having support and people around you will help, because you can kind of say, well, I've lent into that too much. How do I pull myself out of the problem? So for me, if I use myself of probably having the solution of, we'll go back a couple of months. One of my clients asked, if you hadn't have gone on the medication, what would have happened? So I had to deal with that problem. It's like, okay, till you brought it up, it wasn't even in my, even inside. I wasn't even thinking about it. So now I have to deal with it because I've got to come up with a solution to a problem that I'd never thought to even encounter, because I didn't want to even go to that space of what if I hadn't gone on. But it was pretty horrific. But in terms of, well, it's been presented to me. Now I need to obviously overcome it. So it took a while to deal with it, but it's like, cheers. I didn't really want to contemplate having to deal with that, but now I have to deal with it. And I was honest with all my clients of, this is what I'm going through. This is my way to deal with mental health. And pretty much we were on probably similar trajectories and journeys back in March last year. And I've kind of gone, being the leader that you needed to be, and kind of, well, you follow me. One or two have fallen by the wayside through their own personal experiences, and I've obviously became a better communicator to say, well, you keep saying you're having an issue with this, why? And then they were honest with me. It's like, oh, it's been a problem since I was working with you, but I wasn't able to, I don't know what, I can't remember this. I think they felt they were going to be judged. I'm not going to judge you for having a problem with your back or something like that. I can't judge, because on my worst day, that will be the same for me. So for me, it was a few harsh words with some individuals to kind of say, well, if we treat it like a marathon, I can't be in the leaders pack and then keep coming back, because that's not logical. I get that you don't want to ascend your Mount Everest because it's difficult, but I'm going to continue up the path, and they've stayed loyal to me on the periphery. So I can't fault them for their what would I even call that? It's not dedication, but their resilience. See, to keep going, even despite a setback. But I obviously created something that, because of them, because with nutrition, or I call it diet for a bit, I call it nutrition just based on my background of they couldn't, I won't say regurgitate because that's disgusting, but they couldn't take on the information that I was given, because it was kind of going straight over there. It's not too complicated. It's like, okay, so maybe I got to treat you like a child. So I got to go back to the basics, and I've created a product of that, of giving what my industry doesn't like, of they'll poo-poo recipe books and meal plans. And I had a discussion with my coach. It's like, well, why can't I be the next Jamie Oliver or whatever? So I did it, and I think one of the first people to kind of say, well, don't do it, was family. But this was the American version of it, of if it's going to put you at a loss, don't do it. So I stuck to my guns. I listened for a little bit, and then I just persevered, because I just asked, well, what do I do? And my coach says, just be honest. So I just said, well, this is my problem. Stupidly, I can say that now because it's months ago, I did do my homework of looking how much it was going to cost to ship all these books, and I think it ended up like 500 quid. So it was a lot to stomach for the business. It's like, you can agree that I can't stomach that as a small company. Are you guys willing to fit the bill individually for your book so it gets to you? And I think I had one person who wanted a refund, and I was shocked. I was pretty much, my jaw was on the floor of the responses, and that was a concept. That was a concept. It wasn't even a physical product. And I think my dad asked me after Christmas, because he'd heard about it through my aunt in the US, "Oh, what's this book that you've got?" I just turned around and said, "The one you said I shouldn't do." So I did it. It's more. It's actually more profitable of the two, just because of the aspect of the shipping, because the book costs more because of the shipping. But I was willing, regardless, to kind of go, well, let's do it. I've got the funds to do it, and it's not the most profitable, but it was one of those things of early days, no care in the world. It's like, okay, somebody's given me the idea, let me run with it. I'm not going to look at any of the problems that could derail me until I got there. And obviously that was a massive derailer, and the coaches, to be honest, I can't use that excuse ever again, but to people say, well, I've never created a physical book, physical product, sorry, and then sent it to another part of the globe. People probably could obviously write it in on the internet and go, "Oh, James, that's not true anymore." So I wouldn't ever try of doing that as an excuse.
Right. I think it works through how you constantly learn, isn't it? So every opportunity that comes along is an opportunity for us to learn something. We'll learn something that went well, and we'll learn something that didn't go quite so well, and we're not going to do that next time. Hopefully we might make a brand new and exciting mistake, but hopefully not repeat the one we just did, because that's how we grow, isn't it? That's how we develop.
Oh, I don't do that mistake anymore. I've looked. So somebody come say from somewhere it's not gone, I'll look on Royal Mail or one of the parcel companies and say, well, it's going to be approximately this.
Yeah.
Up to you if you want to go ahead with it.
Yeah. But I think we all make mistakes, right? And I think it's got legs. I think it's a great idea. Everyone's like, you got to eat your protein powder and you need to mix it with milk, and it's just like, look, no one wants that. No one wants protein powder. Like, they're sick of the taste of it. They want to eat good food, right? Like, it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. I think it's great. You should go for it. Yeah, definitely.
Well, that'd be probably the next one. We got to supplement it, because I was talking to a company about it. It's like, well, why don't you like nutrition as a part of your business, James? It's like, I don't get it. I don't like it because it's for me, it's not boring. I use the term boring during the meeting, but it's not sexy. For me, it's not. It's the I've hated it since the day that I turned professional. It's and those were the days of long before apps. It was pencil and paper, and I think I was asked at the time, "Oh, you need to write down everything you eat and drink." Then I thought, no, I was just honest with the nutritionist. Like, I'm not doing that. That's the last thing I want to do when it's 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. Is write down and weigh everything I eat before I eat it. I want to get home from training, eat it, go to sleep, and then repeat my day. And then I've never had any qualms about that, because I'm coming to an individual logical answer. I've come up with my solution, and it was the same with dehydration before London, because we had two choices, because we had a P test in the morning and then a P test after training to see how dehydrated you were when you got up, and then after training. I was massively dehydrated in the morning, and they said, well, what do you want to do about it, James? And I was logical. I was like, well, we've got two choices here, because it was, and I'm not plugging it was Powerade, so you could input Lucozade if you want to with this story. I can either drink this thing that's highly sugar, not sleep very well, and impact my sleep, or I don't drink it, I sleep better, and I'm dehydrated. And they're like, yeah, which do you want to do? I'd rather be dehydrated than sleep. And and that was because I was able to. It probably shows going to university as well. I could give a definitive answer and be able to back it up. They're like, if you were willing to deal with those setbacks of I need to drink more during the day to make sure it's not a problem, and that's very trial and error. I was willing to do that, so that's worked out. Of I think coming back to both your points of learning from, it's not really a mistake, but pretty much life experiences.
But it's that constant checking, isn't it? And then just tweaking, because often I think we worry that the change has got to be massive, and very often is only a very small change we need to make to take something from being a disaster to being something that goes well. But we've just got to keep looking at, okay, what could I learn from this, and what might I be able to do slightly differently that's just going to turn the needle. And you clearly, that's something that you do as part of your approach to life. Is to
well, I've had to tone it back a little bit, because I was too analytical.
Yeah.
And I was kind of told, well, you're over analyzing. It was at the point, it was very much an upset. It was almost an addiction of. And the person said, well, how do you solve that? So this happened to be with like technology, with tracking your sleep, how much you walk. I haven't touched one of the watches I've got. It's been uncharged for probably a year. I kind of went the extreme the other way. It's like, the only way I'm not going to be over analytical is I don't do it at all, and I don't look at it under a microscope. So I don't look at, I won't say I don't look at any metrics, because that's not true. I don't look at any metrics as they're concerned to me. I'll obviously look at metrics to my clients, just to make sure that they're doing what they need to be doing, and any way that I can obviously resolve a problem before it's arisen, and kind of say, well, this may come a problem. What do you need support with? Because it's, instead of kind of pointing the fingers as, well, I see that you've got a problem, and what did you do to cause it? I'll look at, well, what can we do to resolve it?
Okay. So if you were, when you have face a brand new challenge, or when your clients face a brand new challenge, what would be the steps that you would recommend people go through?
Well, that's why I look at it as an individual approach.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have to look at them individually. So a generic approach, well, I won't probe somebody that's obviously not willing to go there. I only go as far as the other individual is willing to go. So I've had things as saying, or you're what was the best one I've had? It's like I'm in an interrogation. And then they asked me things that were nothing to do with business. Like, well, if you say mine's interrogation, what are you doing to me then? But obviously I never cause that as a problem. So in terms of like the overall solution for, depends how big the problem is. It's not an easy question to be able to answer. So depending on, if I give the scenarios, if it's like a small thing of, I don't know, they want to lose 5 to 10 pounds, well, that can be done in 3 months. It's not, it's probably reverting the years and years of being manipulated by the marketplace.
Yeah.
Of kind of saying, well, no, you don't have to do it with this diet, that diet, pretty much the list is endless in terms. I'm not going to input anyone, but any diet that you can think of, you can input in there in terms of it's being restrictive. I can educate you, and you can lose it. You can lose weight and actually enjoy it and eat what you want to do, and obviously not having to sacrifice birthdays, meals out, special occasions, and you actually enjoy life. And then it's not a diet, and it's a lifestyle. So that'd be like point one, but that would be across the board of if your journey is 3 months versus, I don't know, what's the longest I've had somebody over a year on my books of educating them the exact same way, but I have longer to do it. So, well, what my coach calls indoctrinated, I call it brainwashing. So of pretty much getting them to think like me, but I'll do it slowly versus maybe somebody that's doing it for the short term. I haven't got as long, so I won't try and manipulate them to kind of think like me. I had one client that's no longer with me. That was the first conversation I had with them and that's actually a piece of content. I want to be just like you. Like, no, I don't particularly want to. I don't want another human being the other side of the globe or anywhere in the world for that matter to be exactly like me, because that's creepy. But the point I guess that they were making of they like the mindset that I have of I'm willing to take on. I'm not gonna say every challenge, but most challenges that I see bearing fruit, I will take on. I'm not apprehensive because of having had a lot of that opportunity to be in those positions of rock bottom to, I'll say, on the mountaintop in my view of success. So I've lived it and breathed it of every aspect of the journey in between. So why don't you just give me the opportunity to not solve your problem, but help you with the problems of we'll work together to be able to enable you to improve your diet, to improve your view towards exercise. That hasn't come up a lot, but in terms of some people obviously think of exercise as torture. What I did was torture.
Right, yeah,
I didn't want to do it, but in terms of doing just exercise for movement's sake, that's not torture. It's not. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. It's just finding a form of movement that you enjoy. So it could be dancing, it could be walking, it could be going to the gym, it could be, the list is endless. Oh, and then obviously the big one of them all is mindset. But I've gone full circle with it because I've gone from kind of going from one perspective of this the dude sitting in the corner humming to himself to it's probably more important than both of them combined. And I've asked people on social media, which do you think is more important towards your goal? Is it the diet? Is it the exercise? Or is it the mindset? Some people are lazy and they put all three. It's like, that's not the question I asked. I said, which is the most important? You have to pick one. Some people don't like when I question them on that. That's like, if you had to pick one. And it's like, well, I can't choose. Yeah, but I'm telling you to pick one. And then obviously it's a debate. And that's it's one of those good things with social media. Everybody has an opinion.
James, you've been so generous with your time, and I really appreciate it. And so if people want to get a hold of you, they want to like lose weight, they want to get fitter, change their mindset around these kind of things, they can find you. We'll kind of drop a link in the show notes when we've edited this down and put it on the YouTube and stuff. So thank you. It's been super, and thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Yeah, it's been a real delight, James. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.